Hey, this is Wolf from Barefoot Bushcraft, and as always, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we are going to talk about neck knives. The neck knife, also known as the Moor's carry, or the Kojansky carry, or the Kohansky carry, or however you want to pronounce it, depending on your dialect, is a fairly old system, and it basically is just that, a knife that goes around your neck. In this short video, we're going to talk about the neck knife and see if it's right for you. And of course, I do this for a living. I'm a professional survival instructor, but all the stuff that we show you here may or may not be right for you. And it's totally okay if it's not for you. It may not be right for you now, but a few years from now, it might be the way you want to go. So let's get right into the pros and cons of it. So this is a very small neck knife known as a Mora, the Mora Companion in high visibility orange. These are some of the rental knives that we have in Barefoot Bushcraft. And of course, to make it into a neck knife, you just need a lanyard to put it around your neck. It's a pretty simple device, pretty simple concept and tool. Sort of goes around just like that, hangs off your neck. A microphone's here, so I'll put it off to the side. So if I need it, there's some great advantages to having it in a place like this. There's also some disadvantages, as I was saying. So the first thing we'll get into is the advantages of having it. So the nice thing is it's always here, right? And it's always, if I need it, it's right there. If I'm canoeing or something like that, right, I'm not going to end up being able to get to my waist as easy. So I have a knife right here, right? So if I'm in a canoe and I pull this out, and I'll be in a seated position, so I may not be able to get to it as easy. If you're one of those people that have your knife along the back, right, again, in a seated position, you may not get to it. So it's really good and comfortable for using if you're sitting, right? It's easy access. Easy access if you're paddling, right? It also is easy access if I'm changing my clothes a lot or changing multiple layers. Any of you that are from the North America know that, in the morning it's cold, in the afternoon it gets warm, and then in the evening it gets cold again. I'm changing layers 4, 5, 6 times, adjusting things, stuff like that. So this is really great if you're adjusting your layers, because this can always be on your outer layer. So if I have to take this off and put on a big wool anorak, this can go on the outside. If I take my wool anorak off, it can also go on the outside. So it's not dependent on my clothing. That's basically some of the big advantages. Like I said, that and the fact that it is always, always here. One of the other advantages is that you're more mindful of your knife, if that makes any sense. So I'm always thinking about it because it's always banging around in my front. If I put it here and I'm walking around or I walk away, I may forget about it. The other huge advantage is if I'm trying to put this knife away, and if I'm trying to put my side knife away, and I've done my task with it, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Oh, first of all, I can cut myself or my clothing, right? And oh, you know what? Forget it. And then I'm just going to take it and I'm going to set it down somewhere. Now, if you set your knife down on the ground, there's a possibility of someone stepping on it, of you leaving it, or all sorts of stuff. So putting it here front and center is a lot quicker to get to, even doing this. So just be putting it away like this, right? I have to struggle a little tiny bit in order to get that where I want it. But this, boom, out, do my task, do what I need to do, put it away. It was that fast. There's no struggling. As well, I'm less likely to be like, oh, I can't get it into the pack. Even if I'm the person that keeps it on the back, I can't get it there. Screw it. And I'm just going to leave it somewhere, put it down, whatever. It's much faster. Put that back right here in your side. There are a couple of disadvantages, though, for this. So the first one, and I'll get into that right now, is size. If I want a very large knife for hacking and chopping, like my K-Bar BK2 here, or this Cold Steel Tanto, these are formidable size blades. So if I take this and make it into a neck knife, I certainly can take it and make it into a neck knife, right? It'll work really well, but it's going to be ginormously large. If I have like the Arkansas toothpick, which is an even bigger blade than this, it's going to be prohibitively large. So over time, it may cause some neck fatigue, and it's just potentially just going to get in the way. So that's one of the downsides if you want a larger knife. If I have a smaller knife, and this will work, something like this piece here, this would certainly work very nice as a neck knife because it's very small. So that's definitely one of the downsides, is you can only put a knife of certain size on. If they get too big, they're going to get cumbersome, they're going to get in the way, and you're going to regret having it here, and you're going to take it off. One of the other disadvantages is it's going to dangle. So if I'm working over my fire, or I'm loading my fire pit here, can you see how it's dangling right there? Of course, this is a little bit large example of a neck knife, but can you see how it's hanging over? So it's going to get in my way if I'm kind of crouched over or bent over and I'm working on tasks. It's going to definitely get in the way, right? But the advantage is, I suppose, if I needed it really quickly, like it's right here, right? But then if I needed to carve a stick, you can see it's going to start to get in my way as trying to carve that stick. So I don't know, that's just a thing that to be aware of, is that if you do a lot of bending and crouching when you're wearing your knife, depending on the task that you're doing or you're building, you may find it gets a bit uncomfortable and it will get in your way that way. And like I said, if I'm moving or stacking firewood in a fire pit like this, again, it could potentially get in the way because of the dangling. So that gives you some pros and cons of the neck carry and if it's right for you. And it may not be right for you now, it may never be right for you, but it may be right for you in the future. So let's talk about some of the pros and just review them one more time. So pros, the first thing is you can change clothes comfortably with this on and always have it on your outer layer. That's a big advantage, again, in environments where, you know, your weather is changing all the time. It's convenient, so it's right here all the time. It's to a degree safer because you always will drop this back into its pouch. You will always be mindful of having it here, right? And it's just a good carry for that respect. It's also expandable, so you could put all kinds of stuff around it if you wanted a ferro rod or a whistle or, I don't know, compass or whatever. Have a whole dangling bat belt right around your neck if that's what works for you and gets you guys excited, you know, into the woods. So those are the reasons that I do like this carry. So it has those advantages. Let's talk a little bit about the disadvantages. So disadvantages of this knife, again, could be considered safety. If you think that you're really clumsy and you're going to go through a lot of bush, you're going to fall down hills and you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to put 1 million test paracord on here, or better yet, I'm going to put a piece of coat hanger wire around this, and when I'm falling down a hill, it's going to get stuck and it's going to rip my head clean off. If you think that's a possibility, that's totally okay. Don't use this carry, right? One of the other disadvantages is it's cumbersome. It's going to dangle all over the place. If I bend over, it's going to bang into stuff. There's ways around that. Of course, you could, you know, put it in your jacket or whatever. The other reason is it limits your options of knives, and it could potentially get in the way of you doing things. Again, it's very cumbersome. So those are kind of the positives and the negatives of having the neck carry. So there's good and bad to everything, good and bad to different carries. It may be the right carry for you. So I want to thank you so much for tuning into this video. I am Wolf for Barefoot Bushcraft, and we will put our information right up here. If you'd like to visit us on our Facebook page, right there. If you want to look at our pictures on Instagram, right there. And of course, you can put our website right there and visit us, book some of our courses, come on out, see us for archery or anything like that. I want to thank you so much for tuning into this video on neck knives. I'm Wolf for Barefoot Bushcraft. Please consider subscribing.